Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's video of the tips, tricks and techniques, I thought I would show you how I'm creating the effect of feathers now for this bird. So we're going to be working on this crest. I will zoom you kind of up so you can see obviously the crest. I call it the quiffy bit. It's like a little quiff, but I did look online and it is actually officially known as a crest. So I will probably alternate between calling it a quiff and the crest. But yeah, I thought I would just show you how I'm going to tackle drawing the feathers. So the way that I tackle feathers is similar to how I tackle fur, but also there is still some very different methods and techniques needed, obviously, to make it look like they're feathers. So if I just zoom you up, you can see how much I've got done of this ornate hawk eagle so far. So you've really started to see kind of the details of some of these feathers appearing. So yeah, I'll zoom you in a little bit, probably not too much more, and I will show you how I'm tackling the feathers for this guy. If you have any questions, do let me know. Because I forgot in the last video, I will just mention it now. This is on Fabriano Artistico hot press watercolour paper. I use the 640 GSM, but you can use the lighter weight, which is the 300 GSM. And the pencils I'm using will be, well, I've not quite decided, but I will probably be using the Caran Luminance, the Faber Castell Polychromos, and potentially the Caran Pablos. But yeah, anything that I've missed out, if you've got any questions, just leave them down in the comments below and I'll get back to you. Okay, so as I have zoomed in, the way that I am looking at working on this piece is starting at this bottom area, because we've kind of got these smaller looking feathers. I'll hopefully have put the reference photo that I'm working from in the corner somewhere. But yeah, I'm working on these smaller feathers. Now I may end up coming kind of further up as I'm mapping it all in, but I want to start off with these lighter toned feathers, and I'm actually going to go in with the Payne's Grey 60%. So this is a Luminance pencil number 507, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start to come in following the direction. I'm going to end up saying fur, but I do mean feathers. Following the direction that they are going in, and I'm just going to flick that up here and coming down and around here. So what I'm doing is I'm mapping in this clump of smaller feathers that are starting at the bottom of the crest, is what I'm guessing. It's kind of giving you that shape to his crest here. And then I'm just going to lightly, again, it's all light pressure. I don't need to press hard. I can just take this super light as we come across here and just build up the layers. Across this bit as well, it goes into a lighter toned area, but here I'm just going to map. Okay, so I'm just going to start with these feathers so far. I do then like to go over with a Polychromos now. I'm just going to actually grab my Cold Grey 3. I do know that this needs to go darker, but I always say when in doubt, or if you're not sure just how dark you're going to go straight away, go in with either a lighter colour, like I could have gone in with the Cold Grey 1, or go in with a mid-tone, so my Cold Grey 3, because again, I know as I'm looking at the reference photo, it's quite dark, but it's not too dark. So I'm probably going to be okay with the Cold Grey 3 as a mid-tone. Okay. And I'm just going to flick down. Now here I've got like a purplish tone, so I want my sepia 10%. I've just realised it was quite dark, so I've just put my light on. So the sepia 10%, because there's like this purplish tone, and this is a really nice kind of neutral, not neutral, like a purpley grey tone, which is just going to help us blend into that Payne's Grey. Now you'll see that I'm using the Luminance at the moment. I really like using the Luminance as base layers. They're really soft and buttery, especially if I want to come in at a later point with the slice tool, and then you're going to use the sepia 50%, and this is just going to start to map in my shadows. Now, I'm not looking at this reference and trying to make it an exact copy. I just want my shadows to be in a similar place, my values to be correct, but the feathers don't need to be 100% like the reference photo. So I am still though constantly looking back at the reference. And then light pressure still, because I want to be able to get a lot of layers to build up the depth and the colours in this part of the feathers. I can also see like a green tone, so I'm actually going to take the deep cobalt green. And this is going to, again, I want this to kind of glaze over the top. So when I say glaze, very light layers, and I'm barely touching the paper. This is quite a pigmented pencil, I find. You get a lot of colour on the page for what it is. So I'm just trying to take this nice and lightly. Let's take the actually I'm just going to go in now with the cold grey free, sorry. You can see just how green that has gone. It's such a pigmented colour, but it's going to kind of shine through all the layers really nicely. I think what I'm going to do now is take the Payne's grey, but the Payne's grey from the Polychromos. So this is where I start to think about adding some extra details. And using the Polychromos because I find that they're more transparent pencils, so I'm able to see those kind of colours that we've laid down shining through really nicely. So again, I'm just looking at the shapes, and it's when you're doing something like this, it's really kind of about trying to think of the shapes and not what you're drawing. Now, this was something that I will happily say, took me a while to learn, because I had that mindset of, oh, it's got to be 100% correct, and it doesn't, but it does take some kind of not listening to your brain and just drawing what you see. And I know a lot of people say that, you know, draw what you see, not what you think you see, but it's also kind of training your brain to do that. It's easier said than done, and I totally get that. Again, I'm still trying to keep this area in the centre just a little bit lighter in tone. I'm going to just lighten my pressure where I don't want it to be as dark. I could go back in with the cold grey free. And I'm always using light pressure because I don't want to get rid of all the tooth. I want to be able to keep building this up. Go back in with the... actually, I've got the Payne's grey. This is the darkest Payne's grey from the Luminance. So with the Payne's grey, just gonna darken any of those more blue tones. Actually, the dark indigo probably would have worked quite well, but I'm gonna just stick with the Payne's grey, keeping that nice blue tone. And now I'm gonna come in with my black. Now that I've got a lot of details, I just need to sharpen this. And this is just going to be for those darkest areas. Now I don't take this everywhere and flip him. Like so. Okay, right, so in this darker area, I feel like I need, let me take the nugget. I don't know if this is what I'm after, but it might help. Yeah, this actually works quite nicely. If I take the nugget, and then I'm going to go over with the cinnamon, because I can see that pinkish tone. The burnt sienna 10% might have worked quite nicely, but... And then I'm just going to take the sepia 50%, flick up here. Okay, and then I'm going to look at the feathers above. Now what you'll see is I'm not doing any fine details here. It's all more about like colour placement, colour blocking, just adding the values that I see. Now this area here is a lot lighter. I'm going to start off with the beige red because we've definitely got that kind of pinkish tone being blended in here. So I'm just going to lightly bring, actually I want a luminance to do that, so rather than doing it with the beige red, there is this luminance. Let me just grab it. This is burnt ochre 10% for the base layer. Again, this is just in case I need to bring in any slice work, which I probably don't, but... And then I'm going in with the sepia 10% because we've got that purpley blue tone with the greens, but this will just blend in nicely. And you can see again, nice light layers. Now I'm doing this in the direction that the furs go in, because we still want to be building up that form. You know, the feathers on here are not going in all different directions. They're very uniformed at the moment. So I'm making sure I capture that. Sorry, let me just grab, what have I done with that? My coal grey 1 is what I'm after. And we're going to go over the top. And blend. Again, so you can see I've got a nice, oh sorry, let me try and make sure it stays focused on the drawing. A nice smooth layer. Oh, we're starting to get that nice smooth layer to work on top of here. Just going to take the nugget. Again, it's nice and light pressure. And I'm just going to keep repeating these kind of steps with any of the colours that I can see. So the greens, the purples, mixing between at the moment the Polychromos and the Caran Luminance. Again, if you don't see as many colours in your work, you don't need to add them. I know I see quite a lot of colours, so I do go through and add quite a lot of colours within my actual work itself. But this isn't a necessity. You've just got to do what works best for you. And then actually I think I'm going to stick to blending this out at the moment with the coal grey 1. And then I can just take the Payne's grey in this section for those darker areas. Using the sharp point to create those sharper edges. Okay, so you can see how that's starting to form that shape. Now here I've got a really nice dark toned area. So to bring that in, I'm going to start with the sepia 50%. Nice light pressure again. And just lightly flicking down. And then leaving a little gap where we've got that lighter bit of feather showing through. So I don't personally like going in with black, flat black. I like to take other colours first. So like that was the sepia 50%. I could take the Payne's grey. For me, I just like to build up my colours a little bit more. So this is totally personal choice again. You either come in with a flat black or you take your colours that you can see and build them up. I'm going to take the Payne's grey for now. And then again, I'm just lightly buffing out those edges so that it blends. And then I'm going to stick with the sepia 10% because I really can see that purple tone. I'm not going to take it too high up so that you can't see where we're working. And And then this is the light red violet. Now I could also come in with more of like a blue violet, so I get that bluish purple tone, but because I'm going to work over the top with some blues, I'm happy to go in with the light red violet. And the deep cobalt green is also playing quite a part with this piece. Okay, so cold grey 3, and again I'm just going to use this to kind of blend, push that pigment into the paper a little bit more. And then I can go back to my Luminance, and as I say, it's all about just lots and lots of layers. You can see I'm building up my colours, and building up my layers nice and slowly, and there's no rush. And by doing it slowly, I can just take my time to kind of work out how dark I need some of these areas to go. Some areas I might need to go darker, but I also don't go too dark too soon. Actually, there's a darker sort of edge here, so I do like to kind of build up an area like I'm doing now, but I'll get it to, I always say I get it to about 95% done, and then we'll work on the areas around it, and then I can come back and darken this area if I need to. So I don't always go in too dark too soon. Trying not to go up too hard there, and then again that cold grey 3. So like here, I feel like I can just bring in that Payne's sepia 50% just a little bit, not too much, just blending those edges out. Okay. Another Luminance I like, again the percentages in the Luminance I absolutely love, but this is the Payne's Grey 30%. So I'm just going to come in, and along here we've got this kind of clump of feathers, so let me just lift the graphite, and I'm just going to do nice light short motions with my pencils in the direction that these feathers are going. Bringing it down here. Okay, I'm going to just go straight in with the Payne's Grey, but this is from the Polychromos for now. I'm mapping in this darker shadow, this darker section of the feathers. So again, it's all about these different shapes that I can see. And this leads us to where we've got this nice lighter area here, coming down into that darker section. And then again, just flicking up now, because we want this to be nice and smooth and blended. Which is why I do so many layers as well. This is Payne's Grey from the Caran dash. You can see just how light my pencil strokes are as we build this up. The deep cobalt green. So again, it's all about building up these colours, and can you see now how I'm not really focusing on fine details yet? The way that I'm doing this is it's almost like I'm drawing short fur. I'm drawing short fur, but the way that we're doing it is we're making sure it's kind of more flicked motions. So these flicking motions to try and get that effect of the feathers. My pencil strokes are quite sharp, in the sense that I'm keeping that pencil nice and sharp, and we're doing these ultra fine details at the end if it's needed. These are very much clumps of feathers, so we're more drawing these different clumps than anything in this part. I don't want to do I don't want to make this too long a video, but we'll see if I do a few more different feathers. Okay, I'm going to just go in now with the Payne's Grey 60%, even though I know that this is going to be quite dark. Just using some of these lighter tones at the moment to build up some layers. Again, nice light pressure as I'm doing this. Right, okay, I'm thinking I'm going to just actually come in with the Payne's Grey from the Polychromos, and I'm just going to darken these areas that need it nice and dark. So along this edge that blends into that dark area we did previously, flick out here. And then we're creating this nice darker area around that section of clump of feathers there. Now, because this is a clump and it's quite dark, I am going in quite nice and dark with the Payne's Grey. Not worried about individual details at this point. Flicking upwards. And then again, I'm just going to lightly do it along this edge here, because this bit's going to get darker. So what I've done is I've mapped out those individual clumps of feathers. I'm going to take my Cold Grey 6, because this is going to be dark, but not as dark as the Payne's Grey. And with the Cold Grey 6, coming in, blending like so. I am pressing a little bit firmer here, and in this section. So if my hand gets in the way. Okay, so you can kind of see it slowly coming together, just coming back in, and basically it's just a layering game now of building everything up. So I feel like I sound out of breath. All I've done is walk up the stairs and made myself a cup of tea. Right, I think I'm gonna take my black, because the black is just going to show me the darkest darks, and again it's not going to go over every area. So in this one, and then again I'm just going to flick up and out, maybe taking that Payne's Grey. That's a bit light. That was the Payne's Grey 60%, sorry, this is the Payne's Grey from the Luminance. which is darker. Okay, now that I've kind of built up the layers in this area, what I'm going to do now is kind of try and add in some of those details of it being the fur. So I'm going to actually start with the Payne's Grey 30% from the Luminance, and nice and sharp, because I've got a lot of layers. Can you see how that's just coming out? Like so. Okay, so this will just start to build up those details. This is kind of how I tackle these feathers. So I'm just going to slowly build them up, then go back in with a dark tone. So this is the Payne's Grey. Okay, back in with my black, and again it's just this kind of back and forth now of creating these fine details. I might just take the coal grey one. Again, it's nice and sharp, so I'm using that sharp edge to create those finer details. I think the Luminance, being a softer pencil, works better. So I'm just going to come in, and it's really these fine details. Which make all the difference. Okay. Right, I'm going to take the burnt ochre 10% on this side. Well, we've got this nice pinky tones, the beige red. And then I'm using that nugget to create those nice brown tones. And you basically, I'm just going to keep building up my layers in the same way. So that I can create the effect of these feathers. You could also use like the silver grey from Luminance. I feel like that's going to be too light for some of these feathers, but it's a really nice Luminance colour, especially for white fur. But can you see how it's just creating the effect of feathers now? Very small details, but it kind of helps. So if I kind of move you down here, it's how I've basically done all of this. The details in the feather here are actually done with the slice tool, and then I've gone over with the buff titanium. So I'm going to keep building up this area, and then I'll come back to you maybe as we come towards the top of the crest, and I'll show you how I'm doing that before I finish this video. So I just thought I would come back in and show you how I'm going to tackle the top of this crest before I end this video. So this is the final part of the feathers, and then obviously I'll show you him zoomed out. So again, I'm just going to start with my find it, Payne's Grey 30%, following that direction that these feathers are going in. Now they're quite there's like different sections here, so I'm just going to kind of flick outwards to create that softness, and also leaving a few little gaps in between some of those areas. And then we're just going to bring that quite sharp around the top there. And then I'm just lightly bringing that in. bringing back that green tone. Flicking motion again, just doing this as nice and lightly as possible. And then I'm going to take the Payne's Grey 60% and coming over. So again, I'm building this up nice and slowly so that I'm getting in a lot of nice layers into these feathers, so that if I need to use the slice tool I can. You can see how much detail I've been able to get in, even though it's quite a smaller area. Let's go over with the Coal Grey 3 with the Polychromos. It's going to help push that pigment into the paper. Okay, this is the steel grey, so it's quite a brighter blue. So it's going to be quite a brighter tone, but I just want to add it in kind of along this edge. Again, blending outwards there. Right, I'm then going to take my Payne's Grey. Sorry, I want the Payne's Grey from the Polychromos. Let me sharpen this. Okay, so I want this to be quite a sharp edge, because it is fairly sharp on the photo. Blend outwards as well. And then very lightly coming in here. Right, I'm just going to take the Coal Grey 1, and what I've done is over the edges here, just flicking out, because it adds that softness, but also almost like a little bit of blurriness. It's not highly blurry, but it just adds that effect of. You could bring that in as well. Okay, I'm gonna also take my sepia 50% to bring in that purpley tone. So again, I'm building up all these colours before I bring in the darker tones. And these are it's quite a big clump of feathers, so we're just making sure that I create that clumpy look whilst also blending outwards. Back to the Payne's Grey from the Luminance. So I'm using a lot of Luminance so that I get this really nice soft blend to the feathers. Any details I can then come in with the Polychromos, because they have a harder lead than the Luminance, which have this softer, waxier lead. Obviously, both pencils have wax and oil content in them, but these just feel waxier to work with to the Luminance. I'm taking the dark indigo from the Luminance. This is one of my favourite Luminance because you can really get a super dark shadow but keep those blue tones. But yeah, so because the Polychromos have that harder lead, it makes it easier to get those details with them. Taking the, actually I might just take the Cold Grey 6 from the Polychromos. And then the Payne's Grey from the Polychromos, but not as, just glazing over the top. And then Polychromos Black for those darker toned areas. Glaze over with the black as well. So when I'm glazing, I'm just using lighter pressure here. Like so. And then to get my really dark darks, using the Derwent Drawing Ivory Black. This is by far the darkest black I own. And I only use it for these areas where I want it to be super, super dark. Because it will really kind of, as you can see, darken everything up. Try to use it a bit sparingly as well. And come back in with that Payne's Grey. Just blending over where I've just added that drawing black. And then I'm going to go back with my Payne's Grey 30%. Using the sharp point. And you'll see that I can start to add in some little definition. So it's got like a line or a vein of the feather coming up. So that's going to just come up and blend. And then if I wanted extra fine detail, I take the silver grey. And again, using that sharp point. It's not going to come out bright, but because I've got a lot of layers, it really helps work. And again, I could just bring that silver grey in along the edge of these feathers to create that kind of soft look. And that is the feathers on this ornate hawk eagle. So I'll zoom you out so you can see this piece so far. And I hope that it's been helpful. So this is the crest all done. So you can hopefully see how that's all kind of come together. I've done the same techniques in every area of the feathers, building it all up nice and slowly to build this really super looking crest of the ornate hawk eagle. So what I'm going to obviously keep doing with this piece is work on this tan feathers. So I've started coming down here, but I need to work here backwards before I come down at the very bottom of this piece. If I just move you down, there is a little bit of his wings showing, which again are the black. But yeah, if there's any part of this that you want to see me do, maybe I'll film some of the tan feathers, sorry. But do let me know. But if not, make sure you have hit that subscribe button if you want to see more tips, tricks, techniques, art vlogs and art tutorials over here on my channel. Like the video because it really does help the channel out, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye everybody.